Hello, it's Paul and it's
Megan.
And welcome to the ESPC show. And today we are talking to Hazel.
Yeah, so Hazel is from Porty Community Energy, which is a community group done in Portobello.
Your neck of the woods.
My neck of the woods. And yeah, we talk all about what they do and kind of the two pillars of energy efficiency or ways that we can be more energy efficient and mindful within the community, and that was through travel and then through in our homes as well, saving energy in our homes. So it's a really insightful episode.
Yeah, and I think they're just getting going. I think there's lots of things they want to do in the future, and we touch upon some of those things in the show, but here we go, here's the show. Hi, it's Paul.
And it's Megan.
And today we've got a special guest. We're really excited. We've got Hazel from Porty Community Energy. I've just given that with lots of gusto and energy there, but Hazel, do you want to explain a little bit more about what you do and why you're here?
Sure, yeah. So Porty Community Energy in Portobello in Edinburgh, it was set up as a community organisation by a bunch of passionate local people who really cared about the environment and about climate change, and they wanted to find out what we as a community could do to get things moving so that we can reduce the carbon emissions of people locally as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible, and hopefully with a bit of joy in the process of doing that and connection. And it's grown a little bit over the couple of years, but we've got two focuses, and one is on transport and one is on energy. And those are really the two big things that we wanted to look at, because that's how we felt we could make most of a difference in our community.
Sure, and some really impressive stuff that you've got on your website, which we'll come to later, about your big vision, the macro and the micro. But speaking of small things...
Yeah, so we'll talk about energy within the home. I think that's the main thing we wanted to chat to you today about. So yeah, what are your top tips for energy saving in the home?
Okay, so I think when we're talking about energy in the home, the main thing to consider is heating. So that about 70% of the energy that you'll use at home is going to be on heating the space, and then about 13% on heating the water in the home. And that's compared to something like lighting, which is only about 3%, or cooking, which is about 3%, and your appliances are the other 12%. So when we're thinking about how are we going to keep our home warm, it's a really good idea to understand as much as possible about how that heat is moving around your house, and it's going to be different from everyone, and we really advise getting advice on this, educating yourself. We're running workshops at the moment in conjunction with the Tool Library on how to draft proof and look after your home. One of the things that I learned in the workshop was just to go around and find out where there's a little bit of a draft coming through. Actually, one top tip was to look at the spiders' webs in the corners. And spiders, they feel the draft, and that's where they're going to get the best flies. So clean away the spiders' webs, and then you're going to try and find a way of not letting that draft come through. So it could be a little bit of decorator's caulk, it could be a little bit of insulation material, and we're making a distinction between drafts that are not supposed to be there. Perhaps something has deteriorated over time, like the windows and the doors, and ventilation, which is supposed to be there. So something like the trickle vent at the top of your window, that is essential for letting the air circulate and keeping it nice and dry. So doors and windows are the first place to probably look when you're looking for where that heat is escaping from your home and you don't want it to. One of the things I did was get a PVC panel to put over the single glazing that's just on the tiny bit above my outside front door, and that's made a massive difference. We've got two doors as well, making sure that second one stays closed, making sure that there's a strip along the bottom of it to keep it safe, making sure that there's nothing going up the chimney. We've got a chimney sheet, keeping that in place.
I can hear my mum now, close that door, you're letting the heat out. You know,
it makes such a difference.
It's true though, isn't it?
Curtains making a massive difference. As soon as it starts to get dark, we go all around all the rooms in the house and closing the curtains. If we've got a kind of office space and we're not using it in at night, keep that door closed. Keep that curtain closed, even though you're not in that room, because it's going to be keeping the heat in. So just kind of tuning in and understanding where the heat is one thing to get started with.
Yeah, I say the simple things. The Victorians had it right, didn't they, with the heavy curtains and everything.
And the shutters and things like that.
The shutters,
and well-maintained windows as well. Something about maintaining the building, making sure that you're on top of the routine stuff that's going to keep that functioning in the way that it was originally designed.
Yeah. So then there's small things that you can do, and then there's probably on the bigger stage, and we've spoken about this a few times on the podcast. There's the question around sort of future-proofing your home, retrofitting. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think this is really exciting that everybody should get involved in this conversation, especially people who are looking at different properties and thinking about what the future is. And it's about having a plan over the next sort of certain amount of years, and working out how that plan fits with the wider context. So a lot of buildings in Edinburgh, there's going to be some things that you can do by yourself, but there's going to be some things that you can only do collectively with your neighbours. And this is where it gets interesting to me, because we're talking about communities. And so one thing that you can do when you're thinking about the building in your home is just set up like a WhatsApp group with your neighbours. Make sure that you're talking to each other about the buildings and about the repairs. And it's something to think about, setting up a neighbourhood association so that you've got a bank account and starting to share repairs. This is going to make it cheaper for everybody, and it's going to make it more effective. You're going to be able to share knowledge. You're going to be able to share the organising of it. You might even come together and have a street barbecue at some point. That's up to you if you want to. But I think that understanding that those buildings are connected, they were built in a group. If you even all collectively decide to do whatever work needs done on your house at the same time, and you can share a portaloo, that's going to make it better for you. But we haven't quite got into the culture of that yet in Scotland. It's not something that happens all the time. So
I think it will come though, won't it? As you say, I think in a tenement, sharing the cost, doing a schedule of work, getting ahead of the game by doing work before it's needed in some ways. I think I see all that coming.
I can see this coming, and I think we've got a choice. If we just do little bits to our house, that's great. We need some early adopters, and it's going to be helping us to learn, helping to build that kind of industry. So good on you if you're somebody who's getting a heat pump or putting solar panels in, and that's something that you're thinking about when you're getting this property, that's likely going to be something that might happen soon, that on a bigger scale. And good for you if you're somebody who's kind of lobbying the government and getting the kind of political will behind a huge mass scale project. But for those of us in the middle, something that feels really actionable is just to connect in neighbourhood groups and start seeing what's possible, because there'll be slightly different solutions everywhere in different neighbourhoods. One of the things we've been doing is holding events that bring together specific neighbourhood groups, and then from that we're encouraging them to set up an organisation, then to get expert help to look at what's possible in their neighbourhood, and then follow through that process so they come up with a plan. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be done right away, but this is something that's going to probably happen in 10 years' time, and we can save up for that, or in 3 years' time, and we can save up for that, and we can think long term about making the transition between this building, which was built in a beautiful context a long time ago. How are we going to make that an energy efficient building for the future, and how are we going to help everybody come with us on that journey?
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear. I mean, ESPC were involved with talking to government about the changes, the removal of what they'll call polluting heating systems. So we'll see the end of gas-fired central heating boilers in the medium term, and we'll move to alternative heating sources. District heat networks have been discussed, and I know it's mentioned on your website, where that's, again, I'm not saying that'll be community-led, but it might be in the future. But it ultimately means that you're sharing one heat source, doesn't it, from somewhere? And the government, I think, is going to put a lot of money into that infrastructure, I believe.
And what we'd like to see is communities get involved in that process. At the moment, I think a lot of people don't really understand it. They're not connecting with it. They don't have a vision for that. So what can we as communities do to help people really get involved in that process and have a say? And is there an opportunity for communities to be a part of that somehow? Or is it something that's being done to them?
That's the difference, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's limited in what resources and what what we have to do that with just now, and so we're sort of learning, and we're trying to engage with the process.
I think everyone's learning. I don't think it's there yet. I mean, there's certainly some good European models, but it's still very early days for us in the UK. But change is here, definitely.
But there's no reason that we couldn't move quite quickly through that process and connect with people. And, we've started conversations in our community about what that would mean for us. And there is a sort of strategy plan through Edinburgh that you can look at. And we're trying to find ways to communicate that to people
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that you mentioned when we were chatting about you coming on the show was that you guys are doing some work with EdinBRIC, and I wondered if you could chat us through that project just now and what you've been up to.
Sure. EdinBRIC came out of a group of community organisations in Edinburgh who all really cared about retrofit, and were trying to get grasp at, well, what's possible and what can we do collectively. And so I think this is going to be a meeting place for everybody who's interested in what that means for communities, and the kind of, well, what they say is that they're a citywide collective supporting the development of resilient communities through the community-led improvement of buildings. So anything building-y, get involved with EdinBRIC and we'll find out what we can do. And I think at the moment there's very much about this neighbourhood approach, so looking at and wouldn't it be wonderful, so the idea if you had lots and lots of different neighbourhood groups, but they all need somewhere central to tap into to help them with, well, what is the process of that, where are we getting stuck, how can we learn from each other's groups, or they did this in Bruntsfield, maybe we could do that similarly in Willowbrae. And it's helping people who we're aware, like, you know, there's quite a lot of people who are in social housing or renting, and then there's people who can afford to maybe make some changes collectively or get grants to be able to do that, but have some kind of agency in their own process, in their own community. So it's trying to work with those people. Usually when you have some success to a point of forming a group and then getting some work done, there would have been several contact points with that community, and we're trying to work out what those are. So describing like a heat fair that we had in Portobello, where we had, you know, a kind of talk for people, a workshop for people, and stalls for people. And then that led to another instance where there was a meeting of a particular neighbourhood group. And then from that, there was another meeting, and then we went around to somebody's house one day, and then we can get heat cameras. So we have all those different things. So initial first opportunity that EdinBRIC are going to be offering, and come on down to Harrison Park on the 23rd of March, or invite us to your neighbourhood if this is something you're interested in. So the idea is we'll cycle down on a cargo bike, we'll pop up with some exhibition stands, and we'll bring with us some expertise, hopefully, and we'll be able to make you a cup of tea.
Well,
limited supply, get down fast, and then people will have a chat with us, and that will be the first point of contact. From that, hopefully we'll get a sense of who's interested, what the barriers are, what are the niche things about this neighbourhood, what would they really like, and then they can go on to organise a second event and get some support from EdinBRIC through the process, but eventually they will having to be operating as a neighbourhood group with their own direction. And it might be that they just end up organising loads of street parties for a while and chat about it for a while, or it might be that there's a real issue that needs solved right away in terms of the maintenance of these buildings. It might lead straight to action, you never know. So
but you're building communities, and it's sort of grassroots upwards, isn't it, is what we're hearing.
And empowering people to really take that journey forward at a pace.
Okay. So if people have listened and enjoyed today, and I don't know how you couldn't not enjoy today, where can they find out more about your work? Or, as we've just talked upon, how do they get involved?
So, if you're in Portobello, we have a actual physical presence now. We've got a shipping container down at
Tell us
the
about the
bottom of
tool
Pipeline.
library. You mentioned that earlier. The tool library, is that what it sounds like?
So we've been working a lot with the tool library. There's 3 venues in Edinburgh, in Leithen and Abbey Hill, and in Portobello they've got places that you can go and borrow tools, and they also do bike workshops, and they do workshops in cosy homes now as well. So it's a really cool organisation to connect with, and they've just helped us retrofit our bike library, and they helped us at the beginning to kind of work out our systems for that as well. So we offer e-bikes and e-cargo cycles that people can come and try and take away for the day and borrow them, and we also do all the training and the lead rides and things like that. But you can come down and speak to us because we're often there on the prom in Portobello, or you can email us, or you can get in touch through our website, and it's very much, we are holding the community, so we reply to everybody and speak to everybody as much as we can.
And have you got to be in Porty to go there, or are you quite happy to talk to people from outside?
So I would say if you're elsewhere in Edinburgh, then contact EdinBRIC. They're really keen to hear from keen people who are in their neighbourhoods who want to make a difference in their neighbourhood and set a group up and get going. obviously we'll also talk to you in Portobello, but you know,
still have a go on the bike, yeah.
You don't have to be from Portobello to come. The beach is for everybody in Edinburgh,
Indeed.
and we're kind of aware of that privilege that we have this. So we're hoping to be really welcoming to everybody from Edinburgh.
Okay, Hazel, that's been fantastic, and as I say, changes here, and there is a statistic, isn't there, around housing and the emissions. It actually contributes. It's quite high, isn't it?
So in Edinburgh, apparently, it's 29% of the city's emissions comes from housing. So it's huge, really, and it has to be addressed if we're going to meet any targets that we're going for.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying was you're doing that on a sort of small, action-based, community-based, and at the same time, we're almost speaking with one voice to government about the things that need to change as well, because there's things like district heating systems and other things which is probably going to need the government to get involved, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. That's
absolutely, yeah. We need to be working on all different levels.
Working
it's
together.
going to be a combination of different things that get us to where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think we'll see that. I mean, the government's very focused on, removal of non-pollutant heating systems, etc. We're involved with many of those discussions. So these things will happen, but I think they will happen faster and be more effective if they have community engagement, which is what you've been talking about today. So thank you. Thanks, Hazel.
Thank you, Hazel. I think that is just something. We were really excited to talk to you today, because something that Paul and I are quite passionate about is that kind of engaging the community and getting that community spirit back, and being of the people, again, and having that action. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Cheers, Hazel. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
See you down Porty.
So that was our episode with Hazel. We really hope you enjoyed that. We thought it was very insightful. Just to give you a little bit of an apology up front as well. Immediately after recording, I haven't had a chance to listen back to the episode, but we did have a few technical issues. So if the sound quality wasn't what it normally is, that is why, and it will be back to normal next week. But we really enjoyed speaking to Hazel.
We did, yeah, very good. I think as we said at the start, I think they're just getting going. Great that this is a groundswell of community-based ideas and really coming together to make a real difference locally and ultimately nationally, I think. So, really good.
So.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that's all from us for this episode.
Yeah, I guess the learnings would be look for the spider webs.
Look for the spider webs.
And chat to your neighbours.
Talk to your neighbours. Or if not, get the group involved and they'll help you talk to your neighbours.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks again, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.